Welcome to Parev TV. Earlier this week, we had a chance to interview one of the finest crusaders in the cure for the AIDS virus. His name is Dr. Ara Hovanessian, the younger brother of yet another doctor, Rafi Hovanessian. Rafi Hovanessian needs no introduction, but for many in our community in the New York, New Jersey area, this interview will be their first glimpse at Dr. Ara Hovanessian, head of the Virology and Cellular Immunology Unit at the prestigious Pasteur Institute in Paris, France. His work has been described as a coup against the AIDS virus.
Well, I'm the sixth one in the family of Harakel and Hovanessian, with Rafi starting.
Rafi is the eldest.
And then the rest, I'm the sixth one in the family. And born in 1948. And I went, of course, to the Armenian Haigazian բանը, դպրոցը, հոնդեղ մինչև 6-րդ, անգես վերջ Ալիպո քոլեջ կացի, 3 տարի, բայց անգես վերջ ստիպեցանք Բեյրութ երթալքանի հորոս գործերը բաներին կրավեցին։ So ացևով մենք Բեյրութ եկանք, քանի որ եղբայրներս Ռաֆին, քույրերս ամենալ, արդեն մեկ մասը Ամերիկա, մեկ մասը Բեյրութ էր, so Բեյրութ եկանք, եւ Բեյրութ շարունակեցի Ավիդարական քոլեջը նախ, վերջ 2 տարի Հայգազյան քոլեջ կացի, վերջնալ AUB, նախ Bachelor of Science-ը, վերջնալ Master of Science-ը, եւ մեկ տարի աշխատեցա իբր Research Assistant Hospital-ին մեջ։ 75-ին I was lucky enough որ ես master's անեմ Zoer Aude անունով, որ Պաղեստինցի էր ինքը, որ ինքը պանրած էր իր PhD-ին London ռաձեր Mill Hill Institute-ի մեջ, National Institute of Medical Research։ So ացևով ես գրծա at մեծ նշանավոր ինստիտուտի մեջ ես ալ երտալ, որպեսի PhD սնեմ, և շատ մեծ պախտ ունեցա, որ PhD-ն սնեմ, նույն լաբորատորի մեջ, որ interferon, which is an antiviral protein, որ կնվեցավ, it was discovered in 1958. So I was there in 1975, and my job was to find out how interferon can protect cells from virus infection.
You know, that's obviously what I've heard quite a few times, the word interferon. And that's from your words, it protects cells against virus infection. You have done a lot of research in the most prestigious Pasteur's
Yes.
Institute. What is it more specifically interferon does, in very simple words?
Well, interferon is one of our defense mechanisms, which is innate. We have, all of us, we have interferon. We cannot, I think I can say that we cannot live without interferon. It's something that, it's a protein which always is protecting us against outside invasion. So it gives us natural immunity. And it is always produced. But during a virus infection, virus is the agent which induces cells to produce more interferon. So because the organism has virus infection, the organism will be programmed to produce interferon, and that interferon will then go and protect cells against virus infection. This is how, in fact, during an influenza virus infection, one would get the virus. Virus will induce interferon, so will produce a lot of interferon, which will then protect us against influenza virus, and that's how we can get rid of the virus, in a natural mechanism. This is why it is called interferon, because it interferes with the virus infection. But interferon, it's one of the first natural proteins, innate proteins, which was discovered And it was found that when normal cells, they see interferon, they respond, and then they produce important mechanisms to fight against virus infection.
You know, your work has been described I was checking things out, as a breakthrough research and as a coup against AIDS. How close are we to finding a cure for AIDS, which is obviously the question?
The question, well, one of the major problems for HIV is its constant mutation. This is how virus can escape from normal immune surveillance. And the fact that each time the virus, HIV virus, multiplies in any given individual, it will change. And in a way, it is good for the virus, because every time, by its mutations, some mutations will be bad for the virus, but some, they will be better, and the virus will become more virulent.
You know,
So in order to survive, that is one of the mechanisms of the virus, to mutate, so that the organism cannot fight against it. Organism will produce immune reactions against a virus which after a week, 2 or 3 weeks, it has already changed. So the response, immune response that they have produced is of no good.
You know, it just fascinates me that when you were doing your PhD research work in England, you went to the school that had discovered interferon, I think, and you were really where the action was, in the same lab where it was discovered. Why did you choose France?
Well, the thing is that after, because when I was doing my PhD in London, well, I discovered how interferon is working, and I discovered through my PhD thesis work 2 very, very important enzymes, which have become a very big subject internationally. I mean, when I discovered it, of course, we described it first time in Nature magazine. But then afterwards, if one looks to these enzymes nowadays, you can see more than thousands of papers, international papers on this subject. So it opened a very open field. So after, when I went to Paris, I wanted to go to Institut Pasteur, because Institut Pasteur is really the Institut Pasteur. It's very famous, not because of Pasteur only, but because it has a collection of the most important scientists in France. And I went because I went to Institut Pasteur, and I went to the laboratory of Professor Luc Montagnier, because he had interest also on interferon and in my work. And that's how I went there, and he gave me the opportunity at once to have my group and go ahead and do a lot of work on interferon and mechanism of action of interferon. And it was 1983-84 that the HIV virus was isolated in the laboratory, and mostly it was done by Professor Montagnier, as you know, who later on, a couple of years ago, who got the Nobel Prize for that discovery. And I contributed a lot for the second type of the virus, HIV-2, which we isolated it, and we showed that it's different from HIV-1. And our discovery was a major pioneering work, because it served as a means of diagnosis and differentiation from HIV-1. So, and then, of course, from then on, I had to continue my work in two different projects, because interferon project, we were doing very important work. I couldn't leave it. So a part of my group was working on interferon, and the part of group was working on HIV simultaneously, and we continued on for several years like that.
It's a fascinating journey you have been on. How does it feel around the holidays to be with your brother who is sitting next to you, your elder brother, who is a very respected member of our New York, New Jersey community?
Well, it is a great pleasure to be with my brother. I have always been, how do you say, my brother has been a big inspiration for me throughout my life, because from childhood, wherever I have been, which school I went, from the Mangabardes to high school, then to university, AUB, everywhere, somebody would come and tell me, you are the brother of Rafi. So, you know, it is a big reference. It was a big reference. And of course, I was always very proud of having a brother who was such a, you know, brilliant doctor and human being.
And a great titan in the community. You speak about your brother being an inspiration to you. I'm sure your mother has also been a major force in your life. Yeah. I've heard about her from your brother, from your sister, and that woman at that period of time, she instilled in you the value of education.
That's true. My mother, you know, being an orphan, she was, you know, really had gone through a very bad times as other mothers. And she had to work during, like a maid during summertime, just to be able to go to school. And then she was lucky to find her sister, then to do studies in Jerusalem, nursing and so on. And always she motivated us. But my father also, who really couldn't, he didn't really go to school much, but he was really such a brilliant person, because he was a self-made man. He succeeded in his life from nothing, having no parents and nobody, and he could really build up, and he became a very successful businessman. And when he had the factories, you know, during summertime, you know, we were free, and he always told us, you don't come to the factory. This is your summertime. This is your holidays. You go and enjoy your holidays. You go afterwards, you go to school, you do your piano, but you don't come to the factory. Because he didn't want us that we go to the factory, and then because the factory was really very, working very well, and then we could be afterwards perhaps still, you know, he wanted that we will have a degree. And that's what he wanted. Yes.
What Dad said was that whatever you can put in your brain, nobody can take. The rest of the things, he said, people can take it from you. But once you put it in here, you can move anywhere, and it will be always yours. So he always pushed us, all the brothers, and he said, you go and study. You study. He says, the factory is always there. If you need the factory, it will be there. But whatever you put in your brain is your treasure.
Yeah. Let me ask you this passion you had for piano. You still play the piano. Would you have considered to be a musician as opposed to a scientist?
Well, when I was young, around 20 years old, I was both good at the piano and in my studies. But when I really started to know more music, well, I told myself, no, I don't want to be a musician that is just like that. Because when you started to know, you know, just to not, when I started to understand more and more music, I said, no, I can be, no, music, it's a good hobby, and I still love it and consider it as a hobby rather than my profession, because I thought it wasn't, I wouldn't be, you know, at the top.